Hey everyone! As you know, there's a storytelling festival coming up, so I've been reading lots of folktales and myths to get inspired. Something I've noticed is there's often a hero in these stories who faces a challenge. Take the Greek myth, Theseus and the Minotaur. In this story, Theseus finds his way out of a labyrinth using a ball of string. Pretty clever strategy, huh? So that's got me thinking. That's like how we use strategies to navigate the maze of tricky words we find in stories. Lately, I've noticed words with parts that follow patterns, like unbelievable and undefeated. Notice how they both start with un? Well, that made me wonder, how do parts of a word help us understand what the whole word means? Let's find out. Words are kind of like puzzles. Just like a puzzle has pieces, a word has parts. Each word part has its own meaning, and when we put these parts together, they form a complete word, similar to how puzzle pieces fit together to create a finished picture. The first word part we'll explore is a prefix. Look at these two words, rebuild and rewrite. What do they have in common? They both start with a prefix re. A prefix is a word part that can be added to the beginning of a word to change its meaning. We can separate the word parts like this to identify the prefix re. But what does re mean exactly? Re means again or back, changing the meaning of the words build and write. So based on what we know, rebuild means to build again, and rewrite means to write again. Here are two more words, unbelievable and uncomfortable. Can you spot the prefix? We can break the words up to find un. Un means not or the opposite of. So what do these words mean? Unbelievable means not believable, and uncomfortable means not comfortable. Wait a second. I have another pair of words here. Disagree and dislike, which share the prefix dis. Just like the prefix un, dis also means not or the opposite of. So some prefixes can have similar meanings. Interesting. Can you think of any other words that start with un, re, or dis? Unhappy, recycle, disorganized. Okay, you get the idea. There are so many words that have prefixes. Now let's move on to another word part, root words. Since we've been exploring Greek myths lately, it's the perfect time to talk about root words because many come from ancient languages like Greek and Latin. But what are root words? Well, when you take away a prefix, you're left with a root word. This is the part that holds the word's main meaning. Think of the root word as the most important part of a puzzle because other word parts, like prefixes, attach to the root word to change its meaning. Look at the word reuse. Let's start by separating its parts to find the root word. We have the prefix re, which we already know means again or back, so reuse means to use again. And if we take away this prefix, we're left with use. Aha! Use is the root word. And check this out. Notice how it can stand alone. This means it still makes sense even when other word parts are taken away. Use is a complete word. But be careful, because not all root words can stand alone. Take the word incredible, for example. If we separate the word parts, we find the root cred. Is this a complete word? No, it needs other word parts like in and ibble to create a full word and complete its meaning. Okay, let's find the root word of these words. Graphite, biography, and autograph. Can you find the same root word that appears in all three? If we separate the word parts, we find the root word graph. And check this out. Notice how the root graph can be found at the start, middle, and end of the words. Root words aren't always in the same spot. Now try to figure out the meaning of the root word graph. Now here's a hint. Graphite is a material used for writing or drawing. Biography is a written story about someone's life. And an autograph is a person's written signature. So what does graph mean? To build, write, or speak? Pause here to decide. When graph is used as a root word with other parts added on, it means to write. Now let's learn about suffixes. A suffix is a word part that can be added to the end of a word. Like prefixes, suffixes are added to a root word to change its meaning. Look at these sentences. The careless student forgot to finish the activity, and the careful student finished the activity and checked it twice. What do you notice about careless and careful? Both words start with the root word care. But look, the suffixes are different. Let's break them down. In careless, we see the root word care and the suffix less. So, what does careless mean? Well, careless means without care, because the student didn't care enough to make sure they had finished the activity. And what about careful? We see the same root word, care, but this time the suffix is full. Can you guess what it means? Careful means full of care, since the student finished their activity and checked it twice. The suffix changes the meaning of care. Adding less means without, while adding full means full of. Just by changing the suffix, we change the meaning of the root word. Great! Now that we've explored some familiar words, let's work on some trickier ones. Here's one. Disrespectful. First, let's break it up to find the word parts. Notice how this word has a prefix, a root, and a suffix. Words can sometimes contain all three. Disrespectful is made up of the prefix dis, the root word respect, and the suffix full. Well, we know the prefix dis means not or opposite of. The root word respect means to show care or consideration, and the suffix full means full of. So, that tells me disrespectful means not full of care or consideration. Here's another word, unattainable. Break it into parts to find the prefix, root, and suffix, then use their meanings to write a definition. Pause here to work it out and use my notes to help you. All right, let's check together. When we break down unattainable, we find the prefix un, which means not, the root word attain, which means to achieve or reach, and the suffix able, which means able to. So when we put it all together, like a puzzle, unattainable means not able to be achieved or reached. Hey, remember in our last lesson on context clues, we learned how to figure out the right meaning of tricky words? We swapped the word for a synonym to check if it made sense. We can do the same here. Here's the sentence where I found the word unattainable. The treasure hidden at the top of the mountain seemed unattainable. Let's check. The treasure hidden at the top of the mountain seemed impossible to reach. Yes, that works, which means we probably have the right definition of unattainable. Great work! We've seen how prefixes and suffixes change the meaning of words, but what about words that don't work with prefixes and suffixes? Take the word cat, for example. Can you imagine adding the prefix re to make re-cat? Or the suffix ment to make catment? Yeah, those definitely aren't real words. Cat is already a complete word and it doesn't need extra parts. The best way to figure out if you can add a prefix or suffix to a word is to just try it out. It's like experimenting with puzzle pieces. You test them out to see if they fit. If a word sounds strange with a prefix or suffix, it probably doesn't need extra parts. Wow, breaking down words really does help us understand their full meaning. We learned how to separate words into prefixes, root words, and suffixes, and use those parts to figure out what words mean. Remember I told you about the Greek myth Theseus and the Minotaur? Well, now it's your turn to read it. Use the strategy we practiced today to tackle any tricky words you find. Keep working on those goals, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Hey.